A very good afternoon, everyone, or whatever time of the day it might be where you are coming from. My name is Ilari Aho. I'm the co-chair of the Built4People Partnership Board. My day job is with a global construction product supplier called Uponor. I'm based in Finland, and I'm a member of the board of directors of the World Green Building Council and of the presidium of the ECTP. It's my great pleasure to open the inaugural Built4People Stakeholder Forum and welcome you to this event. As I'm sure most of you already know, Built4People is a co-programmed partnership between the European Commission, ECTP, and the World Green Building Council. And you will be today hearing from inspiring speakers representing all of these three partner organizations. We have a very tight and packed agenda today, and in just a few moments we will get straight down to business with our opening keynote. But before that, I have a couple of pieces of advice for you for navigating our event on the Hopin platform today. First of all, it would be great to hear from you, so please say hello in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you are coming from, where you are joining this event from. And let us know how you feel today. There's a red dot on the vertical panel on the left-hand side, which tells you where you should be based on the agenda of the event. The opening and closing plenaries today will take place on the main stage. There will be networking breaks during the afternoon where you can connect and get to know the other participants of the event. And later on, there will be 6 thematic sessions where you will be able to choose in which one to go. And in case you would have any technical difficulties or other types of problems with the platform, you can access the IT help desk through the sessions area, which you will find in the control panel on the left. But now, as you are here on the main stage, you are exactly in the right place, and we will get to our opening speeches. We have as said, we have a very tight program today, so we are going to ask all our speakers during the afternoon to try to stick very strictly to the times allocated to all of you. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Hans van Steen, Principal Advisor for DG Energy at the European Commission. Mr. van Steen has a political science background, but he has been with the Commission since 1989, working on numerous assignments related to energy. And today, we have the privilege of hearing him share some thoughts on how the transition in the built environment that Built4People is seeking to accelerate fits into the wider European political context. So with that, Mr. van Steen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ilari. And a very warm welcome also from my side to all the participants to this first Built4People Stakeholder Forum. I'm very happy to be here with you today and to give you some initial ideas from the Commission side on the role of this partnership. From the very beginning of Horizon Europe, it was clear to us that a partnership would be the right way to tackle innovation and research challenges linked to sustainability in the built environment. In our view, a partnership would create a consistent and effective framework for research and innovation in this important area, and it would bring together a broad range of innovation actors and pool resources around a shared vision. And what we see now is that this partnership has become a reality, with a clear strategic research and innovation agenda, which was published only a few months ago. And I think this document sums up the main challenges and objectives of the partnership, and it sets a very clear and realistic vision for the years to come. And if you haven't already done so, I would strongly recommend you also have a look at this roadmap and make yourself familiar with it. So today, in this forum, we gather an audience with experts and stakeholders from across Europe, including, of course, members from academia, from industry, from SMEs, end users, non-governmental and civil society organizations, stakeholder associations, among others. The forum gives you the opportunity to get to know each other, but also to get to know the partnership in more detail and learn how to engage with the different activities of the partnership. The idea is that for the future, we will have a relevant group of highly qualified professionals from various backgrounds who will follow all the steps of the partnership and advise on the priorities that it should address. As you know, the Commission has set very ambitious goals on climate and energy. The 2019 European Green Deal had the aim to make Europe and the EU a green, robust, modern and resource-efficient competitive economy with the headline goal of climate neutrality by the middle of the century. Since the publication of the Green Deal in 2019, the world, I would say, including the world of energy, has of course changed dramatically. With Putin's aggression on Ukraine, we now, incredibly, have a war in Europe. This has profound impacts on energy, not least on energy security. The Repower EU plan that the Commission adopted last week is the response to exactly that, essentially seeking to put an end to our dangerous dependency on Russian fossil fuels as soon as possible. I'm mentioning this because, of course, the building sector has a key role to play, among other things, because a lot of Russian gas goes into heating buildings. Also, of course, with 40% of our energy use in buildings, the sector is critically important in terms of achieving our ambitions linked to the climate and energy transition, as also described in the Commission's Renovation Wave strategy from 2020. Now, all of these objectives can only be successfully achieved if we address them in an inclusive way and if, beyond energy efficiency, sustainability and circularity and the building users are at the center of this transition. And that's why the people-centric approach advocated by this partnership is so relevant. The partnership needs to bring together the public and private sectors to create research and innovation pathways for sustainability, better living and more efficient buildings, but also healthier living environments and buildings that are better integrated into their surroundings. Therefore, we see the partnership as a key instrument to support the transition towards a greener, socially inclusive and digitally enabled economy in full alignment with the priorities of the Commission overall. The new Horizon Europe program, which is not, by the way, so new anymore, but it was really designed on the basis of three main objectives: tackling climate change, achieving the UN sustainable goals, and boosting competitiveness and growth in the European Union. With a budget of almost 100 billion for the period, billion euros that is, for the period 2021 to 27, the aim is to generate the technology and socio-economic breakthroughs that are needed to achieve our longer-term goals in a cost-effective way. This is also the case for the energy transition that relies on the decarbonization of the EU building stock through massive renovation and modernization of buildings. We therefore have very high expectations for the Built4People partnership in addressing these challenges. This includes the need to enhance the circularity and sustainability of materials and construction workflows, and to introduce new digital solutions to better and more dynamically manage energy. In our view, smart buildings will have a really significant role in achieving a decarbonized building stock. The Built4People partnership will need to create synergies with other partnerships, but also with the new Horizon missions. For instance, the Built4People partnership could exploit important synergies with the EU mission for climate neutral and smart cities, which will address clean mobility, energy efficiency, and green urban planning and living. The Commission recently announced which 100 EU cities are selected for this mission. There are also 12 associated cities outside of the EU. So now the opportunities for cooperation are really very clear in that sense. To sum up, I've tried to sort of, in this short intervention, to pass the message that research and innovation activities are crucial for the EU to achieve its energy and climate transitions, including in this very extraordinary situation that we are currently finding ourselves. The Built4People partnership is a fundamental part of the Horizon Europe ambition on efficient, sustainable, and inclusive energy use, notably to have a more sustainable and efficient built environment. With this, I would like to encourage you very much to follow the activities of the partnership as closely as you can. For us, it's very clear that the success of the partnership is also dependent on a valuable contribution from you as the stakeholder community. I would like to thank you very much for having listened to me this afternoon, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion during the rest of the meeting. So thank you very much, and with that I hand back to you, Hilary. Thank you.
Many thanks, Hans, for the profound overview of the political considerations and your insights. I think it was particularly important the way you underlined the people-centric approach and the need for inclusiveness as we go forward, as indeed the transition that we want to achieve in the built environment is at the end of the day going to touch the lives of all of us Europeans. So thanks for that. I'm also happy that I see your hellos pouring in on the chat screen, so keep them coming. It's great to hear who we have on the line, and it's great to hear where you are coming from. Now that we have heard the wider context where our partnership is operating in, we are now going to take a little bit of a more detailed look at the partnership itself, its aims and objectives. And for this purpose, I will now pass the floor to Stephen Richardson, the Director of the Europe Network at World Green Building Council and a member of the Built4People management team. So Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hilary, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you, and great to see so many people joining us from all across Europe. Thank you to Hans van Steen for those inspiring opening words. I would like to just, as Hilary said, give you a little bit of a flavor of what Built4People is aiming to do. I'll try and be very quick. We don't want to spend too much time going over this information, because I'm sure many of you will have a good understanding of what Built4People is about. But if we could have the first slide up, please. I'll just briefly talk through the high level stats, if you like. So if you could flick to the next slide. Built4People is an abbreviation. The partnership has a longer name. It's the European Partnership for People-Centric Sustainable Built Environment. Built4People is a bit easier to roll off the tongue. And it, as Hans van Steen was mentioning, it has quite a broad vision for what we mean by a sustainable built environment. Some of you will have been involved in some way in the Energy Efficient Buildings Partnership under Horizon 2020. And Built4People is taking that work forwards, is building on it, expanding on it. And you'll see in the vision statement on the slide here that we're going beyond energy efficiency. Yes, energy, carbon are at the core of what we're trying to do, but it's also about resource efficiency. It's also about high quality. We're looking beyond buildings at infrastructure. And the next slide shows the specific objectives of the partnership. So just briefly mention some of those. You'll see these themes again reflected in these objectives. So you'll see it's about a holistic approach. It's about overall performance, thinking about the whole life cycle of the built environment, of built assets. It's about energy and carbon. Obviously, we want to ensure the built environment is moving on a trajectory that is aligned with the EU's goals for climate neutrality, the global goal agreed under the Paris Agreement. But it's also about materials, it's about circularity, it's about bringing together the whole value chain, and also about improving the affordability and the cost effectiveness. So it touches on the productivity of the sector. And the final one is around ensuring that in driving forwards that transition, in ensuring that the built environment is helping deliver on these high level environmental and climate goals, we want to ensure that we're also not having any trade-offs around the economic performance of the sector, its impacts on comfort, health, and also importantly for many parts of Europe on cultural heritage. These are all really key themes that the built environment touches on, that affect the lives of all Europeans, and Built for People is really aiming to take that holistic view and drive forward the transition in a holistic way. So this people-centric approach, which Hans and Ilari have both emphasized, is really, really key. And finally, just a couple of high-level stats on the next slide about the partnership. As Ilari has mentioned, it's a co-programmed partnership. Some of you will know there are various kinds of partnership under Horizon. So if you want to go into that, you can go into the details of the different kinds of partnerships. In essence, what that means is that the two associations, ECTP and Well Green Building Council, are representing the private sector, collaborating with the European Commission on the programming of the funding calls. So ensuring that the views and the priorities of stakeholders across the sector, many of you on the call today, are reflected in the funding calls that are being drafted. It's part of a cluster, cluster 5 under Horizon Europe, which tackles climate, energy and mobility. So there are other partnerships within cluster 5. And it was one of 11 that were launched in 2021. The timeline for the funding program, Horizon Europe, as many of you will know, runs until 2027. And the budget for Built for People at the moment is around about 380 million euros of EU funding. So that's just the EU contribution. First funding calls have already been launched, and we, the members of the partnership management team and the members of the partnership board, which we'll hear about later on, are already working on the topics for forthcoming calls all the way out through to 2024. So that was just a very brief snapshot. We will now get on with some more, hear from some more speakers, and later on you'll have a chance to connect with other stakeholders on the event. I wish you a very successful event. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll hand the floor back to Ilari now to introduce the rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Many thanks, Stephen, for the good overview of what Built for People in practice is about. Now I have the pleasure of welcoming to the virtual stage my co-moderator, Paul Kartvöivels. Paul is the president of one of the partnership partners, ECTP, and he will be leading us through the next part of this opening plenary.
Thank you, Hilary, and good afternoon to you all. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today and to moderate the next panel, where we'll be zooming further on the detail of B4P. And you will have the opportunity to listen to the different representatives of the partner organizations behind B4P, which are the European Commission, ECTP, and WGBC. Our speakers will share leading examples of the work they are doing to advance the agenda that Stefan just shared with us right now. And for the moment, we're quite all right with timing, but I respectfully ask all the speakers to keep the allocated time so we can get through all the topics of today's agenda. So, and thank you, Hilary, and goodbye. And first, it will be my pleasure to introduce Felix González Yagüe. He's Strategy and Sustainability Director in Construction at Acciona, a Spanish construction company, and a member of ECTP. Felix is an environmental engineer by training and is a lecturer and a government advisor. Felix, over to you to tell us a bit about how Acciona engages with the themes of Built for People. You can indicate when you would like the next slide. Thank you.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for counting on us. For me, it's a pleasure to represent Acciona today in such a great opportunity to share our ideas, our challenge for the coming years. Please, if we go ahead with the presentation, first slide, I guess, is just a refurbishment of a building that we are doing. Is a bit of an example, but I would like to go to the following one. There, we have our approach, the Acciona approach to our reality. Our approach is very simple at the same time very complicated. We have identified that 70% of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations can be afforded through the development of infrastructure. So that's where we try to focus our business. Our core business is basically energy, water, and the development of different infrastructure. What's the problem? That we can get 70% of the SDGs through this development, but at the same time, our business, construction, is responsible for around 1/3 of global emissions in Europe, also 1/3 of the natural resources consumption, and again, 1/3 of waste. Those are, of course, general figures, and it will depend on the country, but more or less that's what we have in mind. We have been checking different tools and different ways of doing things, and in the last years, we identified a very good pathway for us to follow, and it was the taxonomy. There you see two figures. That's the achievement on taxonomy projects, let's call it, that we are doing in Acciona in terms of EBITDA and CapEx. Those data are actually from 2020. We will finish this year over 90% of our projects, including inside the taxonomy. Why the taxonomy is useful for us? Because it allows us to identify the projects that can contribute not only to some of the SDGs that we are focused on, like water, energy, or transport, for example, but also in the common wealth and in the common well-being. We can go to the following slide, please. That was the general approach of Acciona. If we talk about innovation, it was difficult to prepare this slide for me because we wanted to show you how many things we do in Acciona in terms of innovation, but at least I would like to highlight these four. The first, and as I mentioned at the beginning, is the refurbishment of building. We are making lots of efforts on trying to recover ancient buildings instead of developing new ones. And why? Because as I mentioned before, we are already responsible for 30% of the waste in the European Union, and we don't want to contribute more. We are already recovering more than 80% of the waste we produce in our job sites, and our target is to get 100% without waste in the coming years. The second block is the traditional development of infrastructure, where Acciona has an extraordinary experience of over 100 years. It's in tunnels and roads. And not to spend more time on this, what I would like to say is that we are trying to digitalize and modernize all our processes, not only in the design and the development of the project, but also on the operation of them. What to say about the maritime? This sector is exploding nowadays. We are working a lot in the development of floating and foundation solution, and even in the development of energy islands in the middle of the North Sea. Finally, the industrialization of the industry. There is something that I'm especially worried about. We don't have to forget that we must focus not only in sustainability in our business, but also in productivity and efficiency. In comparison with other sectors, we are not that efficient, and our productivity hasn't improved in the last decades. Industrialization of the industry is an opportunity, and the development of new advanced materials that will be essential in the future of our business and consequently in the well-being of our society. If we can go to the next, please. I've been very fast because I wanted to focus on that. I was asked what was the alignment between a big corporation, in my case, Acciona, and the UE policy and the Built4People objectives. Circular economy is a good example. Some years ago, we decided to make a photo to ourselves to understand what we were doing in circular economy. We identified at that time more than 30 projects ongoing, and we realized that we had more than 30 years of experience in circular economy. And we divided in 5 main divisions, the circular economy. The first is the design, is the product as a service. Everything must be designed with the consideration of a whole cycle in order not to produce waste. The second are the circular supplies, very natural for Acciona with the production of renewable energy and the management of water. Water, in my view, is the circular utility by definition. The third block is a recent one, is the sharing. If you visit cities like Madrid, Milan, or Barcelona, you will find our zero emissions motorbikes. The fourth, unfortunately, still is the waste management. We in our principles think that the word waste shouldn't exist in our dictionaries, but we are now in a transition period where we must be able to minimize the impact of the waste that we are producing and will keep on producing in the coming decades, and we must reduce its impact, and in some cases we should be able to take profit of it. And the final block is what we call life extension. This is I'm particularly excited about this, and I will explain you this block through an example. There is a very typical environmental passive in Europe is the abandoned mines, and at the same time we produce lots of waste in the metallurgy process close to those mines. So what we've been able to do in this project is to get 2 passives, the abandoned mine and the waste coming from the metallurgy, and neutralizing the second, the waste, we are able to fill the abandoned mine to finally recover the forest that there was originally in that region. So where we have 2 environmental passive, we have now an environmental active. If we can go to the next slide, please, will be the final one. In there, you have how this circular economy strategy in Acciona is fully aligned with the objectives of Built4People. You will recognize the first, revitalize the sector through the decarbonization. That's what we are doing with a circular design and with the circular supplies. The behavior of our customers, the behavior of the citizens is totally related to the sharing, the development of sharing platforms. And the holistic innovation in our sector is fully related to the new materials and the waste. So that's why I wanted to present this circular economy strategy as the perfect example of our alignment with the European Union policies and the tools like Built4People that I'm sure will make our life much easier and better in the coming years. That's all on my side. I didn't want to spend more time. Let me give the floor to Paul, please. And well, thank you very much and enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Felix. It was great to hear about what Acciona is doing, and especially, you're right, circular economy is even more important in the present situation where you know that the construction sector might face problems with materials availability, the rise in cost of materials also. So it was great that you detailed that example. Thank you again. We will now hand over to our next speaker, Ms. Claudia Canevari. She's the head of unit responsible for energy efficiency at DG Energy. Claudia is a lawyer by training, and she has worked in various energy and environment roles at the Commission for the past 25 years. Claudia, the floor is yours, and tell us a bit more about the work DG Energy is doing with B4P. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul, and good afternoon to everyone. There should be a slide show. I think it is probably coming up. Yes. Excellent. So you can just to say that I'm very happy to be here with you today to discuss the future of the Built4People partnership, and I'm happy to provide a short overview of some of the current policy priorities DGNR is working upon. If you move to the next slide, please. You heard. You listened to the presentation made by Hans van Steen on the need for research and innovation activities to help deliver the EU policy priorities. And the focus of my presentation today is to present to you the main policy developments from the Commission side as regards energy. And this is, of course, important because this shapes the priorities that the partnership will pursue in the future. And let us be reminded that the Horizon Europe framework Built4People is active under Cluster 5 on climate, energy and mobility, and more specifically under Destination 4 on efficient, sustainable and inclusive energy use. It is thus in this framework that the policy context in relation to energy is particularly relevant for this partnership, and I will just briefly touch upon the elements, the policy initiatives that you see listed on the slides, starting from the European Green Deal and finishing, last but certainly not least, with the very recent REPowerEU. If we move to the next slide, briefly about the European Green Deal, this is indeed the overarching policy priority that envisages the fact that the EU is put on a path for reaching a green, robust, fair, modern, resource efficient and competitive economy, which doesn't leave anyone behind. And this includes long-lasting policy commitments, such as, for example, promoting clean energy, making homes more efficient, or financing green projects. So you can see on the slide that there are really a lot of initiatives in this context. And one that I would like to briefly focus upon is the European Climate Law that was adopted by the two co-legislators in June 2021, and that sets a binding target to be achieved by the European Union, as I think all of us know, of a reduction by 55% by 2030 of greenhouse house emissions. And we should not forget what the ultimate goal is, which is in 2050, and is the full decarbonization of the EU economy. And achieving the Green Deal's ambition will certainly require the mobilization of R&I towards sustainability and decarbonization. If we move to the next slide, we'll just see what the next initiative is, which is the Fit for 55 package. And this is a set of measures that are mainly legislative, that aim to achieve the Green Deal objectives in a fair, cost-efficient and competitive way. You see a lot of initiatives that are part of this big package that was adopted in July last year by the Commission. I will only mention three because are particularly relevant for our meeting today. Is the recast of the Energy Efficiency Directive and the revision of the Renewables Energy Directive and of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. And in particular, the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive are relevant for the Built4People partnership. So this is something where we put quite a lot of attention. If we see in this next slide what the main elements of the proposal made by the Commission for a recast of the Energy Efficiency Directive. As you can see, there is quite a lot. It is contributing to the Fit for 55 package and to reaching the 55 objective. There are few elements that I would like briefly to underline. One is that the target at EU level becomes binding, and for the member states it remains indicative, but it is based on a formula that needs to be used. Then the proposal strengthens the energy efficiency first principle, and this is something that I really would like to underline for you to pay attention to. because it is an important principle that should be used for every planning, investment, or legislative decision, to make sure that energy efficiency is part of the equation. It doesn't say that it has to be there, but it needs to be taken into consideration. And then another important point that I would like to underline is the stronger role of the public sector. The public sector needs to lead by example, and this is also for the benefit of all, because whatever is done for the public sector is, of course, beneficial for all citizens. In the next slide, we see a few elements as regards the revision of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which is an essential component of our actions, and it is to be seen together with the Renovation Wave strategy. The Renovation Wave strategy has some important components. I would like to recall, for example, that it requires to at least double the current energy renovation rate within 10 years. It fosters deep renovation of buildings, and it will allow for the creation of more than 160,000 jobs in the construction sector. So it is really a key element, and we know how important the buildings are in order to reach our objectives. And the EPBD revision builds on the Renovation Wave. Of course, the EPBD has been existing for many years, but now the Commission is proposing to strengthen the EPBD. So the few elements, I mean, there are many suggestions, many changes, but I would like to recall just a couple of them. One is the introduction of mandatory minimum energy performance standards as a mean to phase out the worst performing buildings. And the second one is the introduction of the net zero emission buildings to ensure that public buildings in 2027 and all other buildings in 2030 are carbon neutral. And as I said, there are many other elements that would be worth discussing and describing, but unfortunately we don't have time. In the next slide, we just thought about highlighting another initiative that the Commission is taking. It doesn't fall under the responsibility of DG Ener, but it is a Commission initiative, so we are all responsible for it. And this is here, I just wanted to mention this because it is an interesting example of an interdisciplinary, of an initiative of interdisciplinary nature, that is within the Horizon Europe framework, and therefore it is particularly interesting. The idea of this initiative is to make the Green Deal a tangible experience for people, and it is grounded on three pillars: sustainability, inclusivity, and aesthetics. So it's really helping our buildings to become better from every perspective. And what is interesting is that there is an improved link between energy policy and other Commission priorities. And this is also a result of a co-creation exercise, which is something that is very familiar within the Horizon Europe framework. Last but not least, as I was saying in the next slide, is the Repower EU communication. This is the latest of the policy initiatives that the Commission has taken, but certainly not the least important. On the contrary, unfortunately. As you know, this is a response to the unjustified, unprovoked, and terrible invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So the Commission took the initiative with the adoption of a first communication on the 8th of March, and then a plan very recently on the 18th of May. And the idea is to try to, allow the EU to have the necessary means to to withstand the present energy crisis and to, decrease and phase out the dependence from not only gas, but also in general fossil fuels from Russia. So it is in fact a very important plan, very ambitious, but reachable and really essential for the well-being of the citizens and of our economy. So the communication gives a clear way forward on where the EU needs to focus. And what is important is that it builds on what I was mentioning before, the Green Deal. It builds on the Fit for 55. So it is a push to make these actions that were already on the table more ambitious on the one side and faster on the other side. So it is really, let's say, a continuation of, unfortunately, we were forced to push for faster actions, but this will give us also the opportunity to increase the sustainable use of our energy sources. And in this context of the REPowerEU plan, there is, and we can see this in the next slide, the EU Save plan, which is a particular component of what was adopted on the 18th of May by the Commission, and it is focused on energy savings. The case for energy efficiency has never been stronger than in this period, where indeed there is the need to reduce dependence from Russia on the one side, but there is also the need to fight high energy prices. And energy efficiency is really the answer, also to, let's say, facilitate fighting energy poverty. We've seen an increase of energy poverty across Europe, and through energy efficiency, we can create better solutions, better conditions for citizens that are in a difficult situation from that perspective. The EU Save plan has a short-term objective, so what we can reduce by taking some actions, like, for example, deciding to walk to the office instead of taking the car, or trying to switch off all the devices that we all have at home. So shorter-term actions, and also medium and long-term actions that could make the short actions more let's say, structural, and in any case provide the structural solutions that will decrease the energy consumption. One example, just to explain what we are talking about, would be to implement the measures that have been identified by the energy audits that companies that are not SMEs have been obliged to carry out, but there is no obligation to implement them. But implementing these solutions would help reducing the energy consumption in a more structural way. So with that, I finished my presentation. I'm sorry that it was a little bit rushed, but the time allowed to speakers has been reduced. So I hope that you will find this event useful and interesting. And again, many thanks for the invitation. Back to you, Paul. Many thanks again.
Thank you very much, Claudia. And just a few words. I mean, you did an excellent job in summarizing so many initiatives. It's a very exciting moment. Lots of things are happening. More than ever, it shows the importance of innovation. We're thinking about innovation here. We need to innovate more to reach those objectives, and we need innovation to go as fast as possible on the market. On the renovation side, I would like to remind that we need skills, we need people to do the job. So this Renovation Wave will necessitate to train a lot of workers to reach the objectives. And also on the new European Bauhaus, when I read the elements of the NEB, it's basically the same thing as B4P. So we definitely have to work together. So thank you very much for this. And now we are slightly late, but not too much. I think we're doing fine. I'd be pleased to welcome our final speaker for the plenary, Jonas Spangenberg. He is the business unit president of Bocklock. It's a joint venture between Skanska, a partner of WGBC in Europe, and IKEA. Jonas has a background in construction management and joined Bocklock from Skanska in 2009. Jonas will share about how collaboration can be a catalyst for scaling innovation. The floor is yours, Jonas.
Thank you, Paul. And hi all, I'm very honored to be here and share knowledge with you. And as you said, Bocklock, which in English means live smart. It's a residential housing concept, providing sustainable homes for the many people. I think you have some slides somewhere. Yeah, perfect. If you go to slide 2, just to sort of give you the background. BoKlok, our market position, we are based on a limited, very carefully developed customer offerings targeting the medium income home buyers, typically key workers, young families, first-time buyers in the private sales market. We have a vertically integrated business model with in-house product development, factory production, project development and execution, as well as customer sales and after sales. And this makes it possible for us to actually continuously improve our value chain to reduce our climate and environmental footprint. Our homes, they are produced off-site using modern methods of construction, which enables predictability, high quality, low and predictable costs. We want to make sustainable living affordable, attractive, and accessible for as many people as possible. For us, sustainability, it's about making it possible for the many people to own a sustainable quality home in a safe and prosperous community. And as you see on the slide, we are committed to reach net zero carbon by 2030 throughout our whole value chain. And it is actually one reason for us believing it is possible. It is thanks to the fact that we are building in wood in a repetitive behavior in factories with energy efficient solutions, as well as locally generated energy. By doing it this way, our homes, they have a significantly lower climate impact than the typical newly built home. In Sweden, for example, our homes have less than 50% climate impact than the average of a newly built home. And with our integrated business model, the interesting thing is that we can scale up new sustainable solutions and make them the new standard much faster than traditional players. And if you click one more. I know this is somewhat of a busy slide, but in short, on the left, you can see that more than 90% of our carbon footprint today derives from the use phase and the materials we put in. Consequently, we currently focus mainly on these two areas. And we have identified various areas. I will give you some examples shortly, and we are to reach our target. And we have also set up a roadmap, you see on the right side, to reach our target. So click again, please. Moving into 4 examples, starting with the first one, if you click once more. As I said before, we are working in a narrow customer range, and everything we do begins with our price position. We believe that we contribute to society and the housing affordability challenges by offering homes in the lower price segments. This is the foundation for everything and for our social value creation. We carefully assess what amount people would have left each month for housing expenses, including the monthly mortgage repayment, once they have paid all their household bills and covered any other typical expenditures. This feeds into our pricing strategy as we strive to make home ownership accessible for more people. And we call this the left to live on analysis. Click. Based on that, we then work with product platforms with a narrow customer offering range. And our production is then factory-based, where volumetric timber frame elements are efficiently manufactured with optimized production processes, resulting in a very high degree of completion. Our buildings, they are designed to have an energy performance on at least 25% better than the national code in the various markets we operate, which is achieved through the standard solutions structured in our product platforms. In Sweden, for example, if we have a housing area with district heating, our single family homes, they are actually more than 50% better than building code without doing anything else. And another example, in 2018, we decided as the first housing developer in the whole market in Sweden to make solar PV standard on all our projects, no exceptions. and without higher cost for the homeowners. Click. One of our biggest strengths is that we can create our own full-scale test labs for innovative and sustainable solutions through pilots. With our integrated business model, we can scale up new sustainable solutions tested in pilots and make them our new standard faster than traditional players. On the slide, you see one of our coming pilots. It's called BoKlok Grönhult. It's a small multifamily building with 24 homes. It's located in Malmö in the south of Sweden, and it's very soon to be started. This project is focused on testing and evaluating forefront existing commercial technical solutions, where we combine solutions for electricity. It's both PVs and wind turbines of different kinds, heating, both solar and geothermal, water, both appliances and rain harvesting in new and innovative ways. In this project, the residents, they will be able to reduce their carbon footprint by at least 2/3. The building is plus energy building, and it will generate an annual surplus of more than 20,000 kilowatt hours. It will be completely self-sufficient in heat and building electricity during spring, summer, autumn, and even during one severe Swedish winter week. And through this pilot, we are exploring and expanding our knowledge of off-grid solutions to even further prepare for future sustainability challenges. And if you click again. Of course, doing that pilot, for example, we don't have all the answers ourselves. We cannot achieve our goals alone. Therefore, we need and we want to cooperate with other partners and stakeholders who are thinking the same way throughout our whole value chain. So we actively look for partnerships with various partners and stakeholders, both public and private. And actually, we have a quite good starting point, as BoKlok in itself is the result of a very successful partnership between Skanska and IKEA. And I promise you, we are determined to reach our targets. Thank you, and back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jonas. And you're right, partnerships across the value chain, it's really important, and the example is nice. I would say to wrap up the panel that we just had now, we had impressive demonstrations from Acciona from the south on one side, BoKlok on the other side from the north, and in the middle, quite amazing, I think it's the best one I ever saw so far, presentation by Claudia on the incredible wealth of initiatives from the Commission, where you all have seen that construction is everywhere, actually. The job is ours to save the planet in a way. And I would like to insist on one thing, because Felix mentioned one name which is not clear to everybody, which is taxonomy. And I would like you to realize that even though we're working on innovation, in the real economy already, the Commission is asking that investment goes towards projects that are good for the climate and the environment. And so when we look at energy efficiency and resource efficiency, it's only part of it. So the Commission wants us to work on, of course, CO2 reduction. This is climate change mitigation. The Commission wants us to work on climate change adaptation. I insist on that, adaptation. It's really important. And then on the environmental side, we need to look at the water, the circular economy that was mentioned a lot here, the pollution control, and the biodiversity that was also mentioned here. So these elements are really important. So I would cut it here for the panel, and now it's going to be over to you, dear participants, because we will invite you to head for the networking area. I will give you a few hints about this. You'll have a chance to connect with your peers. So these are the few rules you should follow. From now, you should navigate to the networking area using the control panel. When you enter the networking area, Hopin will automatically assign you a partner for 3-minute speed networking conversation. This is really original. After 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you will be rotated to a new conversation with someone else. This will last for 15 minutes, so you'll have 3 to 4 conversations. When this networking session is over, you will then move into the thematic sections. And then a system notification will let you know that thematic sessions are starting. Once again, you can navigate to the sessions using the control panel, and you can choose out of 6 themes related to the core topics of B4P. The themes are inclusivity, climate neutrality, circularity, health and well-being, and scaling innovation. And finally, also the innovation clusters also. Sorry, I forgot one. These sessions, they will be recorded. The presentations that you saw will be available after the event. And for each topic, we plan to prepare a short written summary of the key points raised. This will be practical for everybody. And it will be made available to all the participants, of course. So do not worry if you cannot really choose between all the topics. You will find a feedback from all of them. Following these sessions, we will reconvene on the main stage for the closing plenary, where you will hear more about how you can get involved more in Built4People. So finally, I invite you to move to the networking area, and I hope you will have some fruitful exchanges and who knows, maybe inspire your next collaborative innovation. Thank you very much.